Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Snipe, Celly. My name is Dan Bradley, and as you may have guessed by looking at the screen, we once again are running a little bit late with Joel Fernino, which, it happens. It is what it is. So, um, looking ahead at tonight's games, just what's coming down the pipe before Joel gets here. Loaded slate of games here starting any moment now. We're just a minute or two away from puck drop for a lot of these games. The New York Islanders at the Boston Bruins, Los Angeles Kings at the Buffalo Sabres, Carolina Hurricanes at Detroit Red Wings, Columbus Blue Jackets at Florida Panthers, the Dallas Stars at the New Jersey Devils, the Seattle Kraken at the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Anaheim Ducks at the Toronto Maple Leafs. By the way, all of these games have a 7 o'clock p.m. start time to this point. After that, 8 o'clock Eastern start for Oilers at Predators, Golden Knights at the Winnipeg Jets. At 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern, the Washington Capitals at the Chicago Blackhawks, the Philadelphia Flyers at the Colorado Avalanche, and then in the late game of the night, the Arizona Coyotes at the San Jose Sharks. 10:30 p.m. Eastern start time in that one. So yeah, plenty of hockey on the agenda for you tonight. Picking a few of these out in particular. Islanders Bruins, a very intriguing matchup in that one. Looks like the starting goaltenders for tonight. I'm trying to get that information up here. I believe it's going to be Sorokin and Ullmark, who probably going to be in the Vezina conversation over the rest of the season. Ilya Sorokin, 10-9 on the season, 2 shutouts, 2.36 goals against average, and a 925 save percentage. Linus Ullmark, 16-1-2 on the season, a 1.78 goals against average, and a 941 save percentage. Really, as you look at the numbers early in the season, I think those two have to be your front runners. We'll look at the awards here too, see if I can get those up in time. But yeah, the game of the night, at least in the early block here, certainly looks like it should be the Boston Bruins and the New York Islanders. Let's see, awards. And Vezina Trophy, right now, Linus Ullmark is your favorite at plus 330. Next closest odds after that are a tie between, yes, Ilya Sorokin at plus 450, and also Connor Hellebuck, plus 450 for him as well. So some early season favorites and a great goaltending battle in that one. Certainly seems like bet the under if you're going to go that route. Looking around to some of these other games as well. Stars Devils, another one that is particularly intriguing me. We've talked about the Stars quite a bit on this show. We talked about the hot start for the New Jersey Devils. Dallas is 16-8-5. The New Jersey Devils 21-5-2. Looking around at the standings, that's going to be a very good game tonight as well. Starting off that early block strong. New Jersey, 44 points. They are 1 point behind Boston for first place in the East. Meanwhile, the Dallas Stars on 37 points. They are tied with Winnipeg for second place in the Western Conference. Technically third overall. Winnipeg has 2 games in hand. So hot start for Winnipeg as well. Still putting out the APB for Joel here. See if he happens to be joining us at some point tonight. But we're going to start with some talk about one of our favorite players on the show, one of our favorite players to watch, and really one of the most dominant players that the game has ever seen. And that is the one and only Alex Ovechkin. Ovechkin is on 797 career goals. Needs to get to 801 to tie Gordie Howe second all time. And of course is pursuing Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 goals throughout his career. Jesse with our first comment of the night, wondering if we're talking about Keith Yandel. Love Yandel. Beauty, had the Iron Man streak for a long time. And, well, I shouldn't say a long time. It was pretty short. Kessel passed him shortly thereafter, but it looked like Yandel was going to hold that one for quite a while. But as for Alex Ovechkin, really one of the most dominant players and someone who we on this show have called on more than one occasion as the most dominant goal scorer in the history of the league. You already have seen how close he is getting in pursuit of Gretzky's record. You look at how long some of the other players ahead of Ovechkin on the list have had to get to this milestone. You look at the difficulty with the goaltending equipment. Equipment is better now than when Gretzky and when Gordie Howe were playing. Yes, that leads to things being faster at all ends of the ice. It also means the training for all players has improved. The balance of the game is completely different. Not only that, but then, of course, there's the running joke that Wayne Gretzky couldn't raise the puck. Like, yes, he could, but you know what we mean. As far as the sustained dominance that we have seen from Alex Ovechkin, and you talk about how with his career, he's lost about a year and a half due to the lockouts, the 04-05 lockout taking away a bunch of time very early in his career, and then the lockout in the 2010s as well, another one that really puts a damper in where his numbers could have been. We could be talking about this season potentially being the time where Ovechkin would have passed Gretzky if he got that time. Not to mention as well, we also had 2 seasons that were shortened due to COVID. A couple of suspensions along the way throughout his career as well. It's going to be a major disappointment, I think, if he doesn't get there. But personally, and we'll see what Joel's take is when he gets here, Ovechkin to me is the greatest goal scorer that we have seen so far, as far as a pure goal scorer goes. Another reason I point to that is you look at Wayne Gretzky. If you take away all of the goals he scored throughout his career, he would still hold the all-time points record just on his assists. That tells me that Gretzky is much more of an all-around playmaker than a pure goal scorer. Yes, the goal-scoring milestones are impressive. We're not trying to take anything away from Gretzky on this show. However, in terms of actual pure goal scoring, our argument is one. I shouldn't speak for Joel here. My argument is 100% Ovechkin as the greatest goal scorer of all time. Looking ahead to tonight, he plays the Chicago Blackhawks, which again, Joel, we're ripping the Hawks here on your segment, but we've got no Joel here to defend himself. So the Blackhawks, a minus 32 goal differential on the season. They are last place in the Central Division, and 1 point ahead of the Anaheim Ducks for last place in the league. 94 goals against, which there are quite a few teams with 100 or more goals against. So at least in that regard, Chicago seems like they're doing okay. But we have not seen a whole lot of promise in Chicago this season. And all time, Ovechkin, we're going to look up his numbers here against Chicago. Really wanted to get these numbers up here a little earlier than what we ended up doing here. So yeah, against the Chicago Blackhawks in his career, Ovechkin has played 21 games with 11 goals and 11 assists. So he has been a point-per-game player against the Blackhawks in his career. 41 penalty minutes, 8 even-strength goals, 3 on the power play, 2 of them game-winning goals as well. A 12.9% shooting percentage in his career. Just checking here to see if we have an update from Joel. Nothing yet, it looks like. So we're just going to keep moving on. Gretzky in his pursuit of Ovechkin in his pursuit of Gretzky's goal record really probably should be hitting that 800 mark any second now. Looking ahead at the Washington Capitals schedule as well, they're going to have a very interesting stretch of games coming up here, starting tonight at Chicago. Then they get the Dallas Stars, who, as we mentioned, that's a good team. That goaltending, Jake Ottinger in net, and the defense that Dallas has been playing this season has been fantastic. Against the Toronto Maple Leafs, that usually a high-scoring game there. Joey chiming in here as well. Ovi will score against the Hawks on the power play tonight. You heard it here first. Yeah, Joey, I'm with you. I really think that Ovechkin is going to get at least one tonight. He might get more than one tonight, the way the Hawks have been playing. If he doesn't get there tonight, though, looking at what's coming ahead, we got to Toronto on Saturday. Then next week, Monday, these are 3 home games in a row. So it would be phenomenal if he could do it at home to get to that mark. And the celebration there that the Caps fans have for him as well would just be fantastic. At the Ottawa Senators on December 22nd, that could be another game where if you're looking for teams with some underperformance this season, some defensive issues this season, that certainly could be a situation where Ovechkin gets it there. Against the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck on December 23rd. It's some tougher teams coming up here. So if there was a night for Ovechkin to score more than 1 goal to get to his 800 mark, tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago, Monday at home against Detroit, and then next Thursday at Ottawa, those really look like your big chances to feast with that one. At the risk of sounding like Chris Collinsworth, now here's a guy. We finally got you. This nice.
Well, you see, Chris.
You vamped for 12 minutes.
Hey, you probably did a great job. Actually, I knew you did a great job because I was. Okay, I watched the first minute. I can't lie to you.
No, you couldn't because you were trying to get set up for the show and can't have the competing mics, so that's fine.
But
yeah, Joel.
Fair. Hello.
Give us the rundown on how you're doing, and then we'll dive into Ovechkin more here.
Well, you see, my good friend Al Michaels. No. What are we talking about? Ovechkin's. Oh yeah, his pursuit of 800 goals against my team tonight too. I'm ridiculously stoked. And you know what? Since I wasn't here, I'm going to start the show off with a nice hot take since I was correct about my last hot take. Totally.
Remind the people what your last hot take was, by the way.
So my last hot take, which turned out to be a totally normal take, was last week we were talking about our history-making 7 Wednesday night picks.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was the Sabres versus was it the Blue Jackets, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And as we were about to move on to the next matchup, I said, hey, hot take, Tage Thompson will get a hat trick. My dumbass didn't put any money on it because guess what? He not only got a hat trick, he got 5 goals.
5 goals, 6-point game, absolute dominance for the Sabres, a 9-4 victory in that one. I was going to wait until the Wednesday night pick segment to get to that one, but yeah.
I know. It kind of – I couldn't really avoid it.
No, you had to. You had to jump right in here. What's your hot take for tonight, though?
My hot take for tonight is that Alex Ovechkin, who currently sits at 797 career goals, will beat the record and take sole place of second and hit his 800th goal tonight against the Blackhawks with a hat trick.
Hang on, a hat trick tonight wouldn't put him into second place all time.
I'm
just
sorry.
Get him to the 800 mark. He'd be one back.
Gordie Howe's at 801.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, all right. So outside of the,
but you are saying hat trick for Ovi tonight too, calling another.
So yes, Alex Ovechkin for a hat trick tonight to put him at his 800 goal mark against my team because Peter Mrazek is starting in net officially, and yeah, that's the best guy to do it against.
I mean, we were looking at the schedule here, and at one point we were talking about, we talked about this earlier this season. We were looking at the schedule, and one of them that we had talked about was a game against Pittsburgh, and they don't play Pittsburgh until January 26th. We were kind of thinking that might be a little bit long for,
and boy, were we wrong.
and yet. I think we were right, though, because we said that would be too long to wait. He would get to 800 before.
But we both agreed on January, though.
We did think probably – we were thinking maybe early January, like maybe against, in that stretch, Ottawa, Montreal, Buffalo, right at the turn of the calendar.
Yeah,
somewhere right around there.
If I remember correctly – I overshot. I even admitted to overshooting it, but I didn't want to take it back. And I said like the third week of January, which is like the 21st or 22nd or something. You were a little earlier in like the early teens of January. So both of us are way off. I'm off by what are we at right now? The 13th. I'm off by like a solid 2 months. No, it's not 2 months. I can't do math. I'm off by like 6 weeks, and you're off. But math is hard. But I'm off by about 6 weeks, and you were off by about roughly a month.
17 goals in 30 games for Ovechkin this season, looking like he's on track for yet another 50-goal season.
Yeah.
At minimum, I would think 40 is well within the realm of possibility. 50 is probably a little closer. So, Joel, with the lockouts, do you think we would already be talking about potentially Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record tonight if you add back in the year and a half that was missed due to the lockout and then the roughly half a season that was missed with COVID?
Well, if I wanted to venture a guess, I could, but I'm currently pulling up his stats as we speak for those seasons to see if maybe we could do a little bit of forecasting, right? So the main lockout, the lockout season, that was 2012-13, correct? Yep. So 2012-13.
So like right in the prime of where he would have had.
Correct. So Ovi played 48 games that season during the lockout, which I believe it was a 48 game season, was it not?
Right.
Yeah. So,
right.
Okay.
So he played every game once he was back. Yeah.
So he played every game that lockout season and he had 32 goals. So, 32 goals.
32 and 48. You extrapolate that to 82. You're talking maybe 57, 58.
Which
right
puts
around
him
there.
Yeah, which puts him already today at, what is that, like
that puts him ballpark 840, 850, somewhere in there.
Right. And then, so that's that. And then,
and then the other one was the
COVID
05 lockout. COVID year. He had like somewhere between 68 and 70 games that season because he had played most of every game. That's the other amazing thing that I don't think gets talked about enough with Ovechkin. For as physical a style as he plays, just hitting everybody throughout his career and the shots that he takes and delivers.
Yeah.
He's held up so well despite all of that and continues to score goals despite all of that. Just a gamer. Like he doesn't miss time.
He's built different.
He's built different.
So I had to.
I love it.
Are we like talking? So it was the 2020-2021 season that was the 60 game season, right?
Yeah, that was like between most teams played 68 to 71, somewhere in there.
Oh, so that was 1920 then, because 2019-20.
19 into 20 was
when the pandemic hit
to whatever.
That was just because things got cut short and kind of weird. 20 to
21. Yeah, that one was
50 games.
56.
I think it was 56. So the COVID shortened season of 20 to 21. Ovi played 45 games for a total of 24 goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the one year that he did get hurt and miss some time.
And even then, he still only missed 11 games. So he missed 11 games in a shortened season anyway. Still put up 24 goals, which of course, obviously, his worst mark of any season. But again, shortened season. So I absolutely agree with you. I think he would have already passed Gretzky by now, because if you don't shorten the season of 20 to 21 and the pandemic doesn't happen in the beginning of 2020, and we don't pause play for however it was, like 3 months. We were talking about him being at 8. Sorry, our math is off. So our math was off when we talked about the lockout season, because the lockout season he had 32 goals. So, so if he maybe made it to 50 that year, which that looked like he was on pace to eclipse 50. Let's just say he gets like just 50. That's an extra 12 goals. So 12 goals that season. Give him an extra, I don't know, actually, that COVID year, you could probably give him an extra 10 goals, and he almost got to 60 goals that year then. Either way, you give him 12 plus another 10, there's 22 right there. And then the COVID shortened season, he did miss some time and such. Give him, maybe he hits 40. So after all of that, he's probably today sitting at like an 850, maybe.
But
60.
But that's also without accounting for the 04-05 lockout in your math here, where he missed, where the league was shut down the entire season.
Yeah, but he didn't start until 05, 06 anyway.
He was a rookie though because he got drafted in 04. So
he didn't
he's
play.
free
He
for
didn't play until 05, 06.
Right, because they locked out the 04-05 season. So he didn't
Oh
come over from Russia.
So okay, I see what you're saying. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and I'm not saying he would have necessarily had 50 goals his rookie season. Like he might have. He might have. He might not have. But
he had 52 his rookie season. So
yeah, but a year younger. So still, I mean, it's close. You got to wonder. And that's going to be one of the biggest what ifs in sports if he doesn't get there.
That was the most math I think we've ever done on this show. Okay, that I've ever done on this show.
Definitely the most that you've done. I've done some behind the scenes while you're going, but not like that. That's been different.
I mean, dude, I think we'd be talking about tonight being, is he going to pass Gretzky? Not is he going to eclipse 800?
Yeah,
maybe.
And I think he will. Like we said on the show before, I think he will. And Gretzky is actively rooting for him to get there too. I think that would be.
You'd love to see that. You really do. What?
I'm trying to think what would be like the most appropriate number for him to end on, and like, while 888 would be incredibly appropriate, that would also leave him short of the record
because the record's 897, right?
894.
894. Okay.
894.
I mean, if I were. This is my OCD. I'd want to just be like, oh, there's my 900th goal. All right, I'm out.
Yep. Get to 900, get a flat milestone, and then
good.
Yep. Just hang around until you get there.
Until somebody hits 901, and then you're like, God damn it.
Would you keep like a 43 or if Alex Ovechkin, let's see. Because Alex Ovechkin right now is 37.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't have it by the time he's, we'll say 41, like he's close, but there's that definite decline in production. Do you keep Ovechkin around for maybe on a league minimum deal, have him play power play only, and just kind of keep him around? Kind of like what some of the teams did with Jágr later in his career. I 100% would.
Yes,
absolutely, I would.
Of course. Dude, you're talking to the guy that wants to keep Patrick Kane around solely because I want to see him set every Blackhawks franchise record. Of course I'd want to keep Ovi around and just, if I'm a Caps fan, I want Ovi staying here the rest of his career, which, I mean, maybe it is. Well, he's gonna. If the Capitals were like, oh yeah, we'll trade you, I would really question the higher-ups in that organization if they did that. That's just a moral flop.
The only thing I can think of there is, Backstrom being later in his career, Oshie being later in his career, Carlson being in the back half of his career. If all of these guys that Ovi has played with end up retiring early and the Caps really just take a nosedive and they're just a bottom feeder team that doesn't have a whole lot of support for Ovechkin, and maybe he's on that cheaper deal and a team like Colorado says, hey, we're looking for another guy to add for a cup run. Kind of do like what Ray Bourque did to leave and go. Now the difference there is Ovi already has a cup. Bourque didn't at the time of that trade, but
you'd love to see somebody of Ovi's caliber though have more than just one.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, every top 5 legend of this sport has more than one cup.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to pass Gretzky, who's got 4, or 5, 4, 5, 4.
Yeah.
I think it's 4. Yeah, I know it's more than 3. I want to say it's 4, but maybe it was 5.
I thought it was only on 4 because he won the 4 of them with the.
It was all with Edmonton. It was all with Edmonton. Yeah, he never won.
And then didn't win again after that.
Yeah. Was it 4? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 4.
Yeah, please hold. We're trying to get Wikipedia to cooperate here.
Hello, Google. Oh wait, I could ask my Google Home. I don't know if it would hear. That'd be hilarious if it could hear me. It probably can.
That would be funny.
You know what? I'm gonna do it. This is a pod snipe Celly first. Hey Google, how many Stanley Cups has Wayne Gretzky won?
4 Stanley Cup victories. On the website Britannica.com, they say, as center and team captain, Gretzky led the Oilers to 4 Stanley Cup victories. To find out more,
I don't want to find out more. Thank you,
Google
Google.
Assistant app.
No,
This
you're
guy
good.
bringing
All
our
right.
podcast into the 21st century,
Which
which is dumb because podcasting wasn't a thing before the 21st century.
If there's
but
some
really,
if there's some trademarking there, we are in no way affiliated with Google. We could be though.
yeah, sponsorships.
Sponsorship. We just
This
you
segment
just
of
got brought in.
This segment of Pod Snipe Celly has been brought to you by
Google. Google.
Moving on.
Wait, Google Analytics. I'll see myself out.
This guy. What are we gonna do?
Joke for you. All right, moving on.
Joel, you mentioned last week, and we had wanted to talk about this last week and kind of just ran out of time a little bit, had to drop it. But the seeming uptick in fighting in the league this year and seeing the Minnesota Wild want to add some sandpaper to their lineup and going out to get Ryan Reeves, a team that already had some fighters in Marcus Foligno and in Brandon Duhaime. Some guys who maybe were sort of taking on that role, but then to really add Reeves and go over the top. We saw that. We saw the fight with the Blackhawks game following Trouba's hit. Guys going after there. Tenorti.
too.
Ryan Hartman has been out for the Wild for most of the season because he decided to get into a fight.
With Tenorti.
Yeah, messed up his shoulder. According to a hairstylist in Minnesota.
I love that. Do we really call it? I don't know if we call that one a fight, though, because Tenorti didn't throw a punch and Hartman only threw one, missed, and then slipped.
Yeah. It was over before it really started and became a fight, but still, it's a scrap. We'll call it that.
On the score sheet, on the penalty sheet, it was pronounced a fight. So
yeah. So Joel, my question for you is: does fighting still have a place in the NHL? And if so, how much of a place should it really have?
Well, answer to the first question, absolutely. Okay, if anyone wants to call me meatheaded, go ahead. I'm all for anything we can possibly do to protect not just hockey, every sport, football, wherever, from concussions. Obviously, that science is it's imperative to the player's safety, and that's of course. I'm not the meatheaded fan that's just like, they get paid millions of dollars. I could care less if your brain is injured. No, of course, one of my main priorities is that players are safe too, and I'm not even working for the league. With that said, fighting is a staple of hockey. It's probably one of the only few old-fashioned takes you might hear me say. Now, am I saying
now who's doing the get off my lawn bit? Look at this guy.
Okay. Whatever.
Give me this one. How many times have you gotten to say it to me?
Just
Give
because
me the
I had
one time to say it to you.
You're right. Just because my ankle cramped up today just while walking through the office at 28 years old doesn't mean
it is about to snow, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, here's how I look at it, and I'll elaborate. I want hockey to continue to grow. And don't worry, this isn't my only argument, but I need to make this point. I want hockey to continue to grow. It's obviously at all-time highs from viewership, money, or revenue, whatever. Of course, of the big four, we all have to admit it, it'll pretty much always stay in that number 4 slot, at least in the United States. I understand that. That's fine. But it does continue to grow, and some of that is off of those people that jump in because they're like, well, hell yeah, I want to watch a hockey game. I want to see a fight. It's kind of like people that go to NASCAR races that don't watch NASCAR. Like, yeah, this is boring, but hey, man, maybe there's going to be a crash.
Right.
Of course, I don't want to see anybody die, but
right.
it's that same effect. And in this case, fighting much less different and much less serious than a car crash at 200 miles per hour. But for the record, I'm not a NASCAR fan. But it brings in people to then see what this sport has to offer, which is a hell of a lot more than just fighting. Hell, if anything, that's one of the least things it does have to offer. But it's something that draws, and you have to look at the value in the basic simple shit that draws. So I think it belongs here, man.
Yeah, Joey with a comment here that kind of leads me into the point I was going to bring up. You tell me a good scrum doesn't change a game in the playoffs, can be a huge momentum swing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there are few things that get a barn rocking, that get the bench energized like a fight. And we've seen that for decades across the NHL, that fighting has been something that gets eyes on the game. It's been something that energizes a team, galvanizes a fan base. What's the old quote? If we can't beat them on the ice, we'll beat them in the alley. Something like that.
Sounds like some Broad Street Bully terms back in the
It
70s,
kind of does.
Flyers.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jesse.
Yeah, he commented earlier in the show.
And Sam, I know they're both Flyers fans.
Yeah, I think one of the really tough things with fighting in the NHL is the code of answering the call. Now, I think one of the dumbest things is having to fight over a clean hit.
Totally
and
agree.
whether or not it's on a star player, having to drop the gloves for a clean hit. In particular, I look at a guy like Matt Dumba, who goes out and hits a guy for the Calgary Flames. Tkachuk jumps him, breaks his shoulder, and Dumba has never been the same player since then.
I remember that.
I still will never say anything nice about Tkachuk, as a result of that. He destroyed Dumba's career. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was really the ridiculousness of it, is at what point does the code of somebody says, hey, you're going to drop the gloves for that. You did something stupid. You're going to drop the gloves. Override with, well, no, that's a clean play. Where's the balance there? I want to get rid of those dumb fights where it's just solely, you're answering for a clean hit. Now, if you did something dirty, one of the I hate to bring up this example. When Raffi Torres hit Hossa, I know I tried to give you a little bit of a warning there. Just wait, because I'm going somewhere here.
There aren't many things that trigger me in life. That's one of them.
I know it is. That's why I tread very carefully around this one. After his hit on Hossa, and he was thrown out, he was made to fight for that hit. He knew it was coming. Everybody in the building knew it was coming. And as soon as he was back and Chicago got their chance to get even, they did.
Oh, Jamal Mayers beat the shit out of him.
And yeah, and part of that too is like, yes, you got to be tough. Yes, you got to fight. But I mean, Torres could not win that fight and come out looking good at all.
No.
Like, you take your punches, you take your lumps, you go sit in the box for 5 minutes, drink some Gatorade, and then get back out there and play. And you move on. It's part of the sport. I do think that it needs to be not necessarily taught at the younger levels, but especially if you're going to be the type of person who is going to be fighting, and that's going to be your role, you need to know how to do it in a way that is going to keep you safe and keep the person you are fighting safe.
Right.
It's not, a no holds barred, no rules UFC match or anything like that.
Exactly.
You're not, on the ice with the guy down and kneeing him in the head. You're not doing anything like that.
And I think the league has been, I think a lot of the players nowadays and over the past, even the last few years too, have been very good about that. Like the refs, hear it now. I'm giving referees credit for a second here.
Oh, gasp. Who are you? What have you done with Joel?
We need a soundboard. Bum, bum, bum.
Yes, we do. We need a soundboard.
We need a soundbar, Dan.
I'll get to work on that.
That's fair.
It's on my Christmas list.
Oh, Santa. I know him. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so
you're giving credit to the referees.
I was. We were all over the place there. I give credit to the refs. Like, they are very good about stepping in at the right time. Like, they don't let shit go for too long. Hell, I mean, if and these don't happen too often anymore, but you'll still see one every once in a while. Just massive haymakers from both sides, and they'll let that go, but for only a couple punches, and then they're like, all right, let's get in there. Like, we don't need anybody's, head getting smashed in here, right? Like that's
Right.
fine. They're
Usually
good about
it's when the
stepping
players are tired out, or you've got somebody's got their jersey up over their head, can't see, can't swing, can't defend,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and nobody like you said. Yeah, nobody like you said when they're going down to the ice with a takedown, whoever gets it, or if it's kind of a mutual, they both kind of fell.
Mhm.
No one's typically, at least that we see, taking any extra shots, extra cheap shots, at least that we see, and even if whatever we don't see, it's not big enough to warrant, an outcry of anything. Maybe it's just something petty or whatever, right? Like that's fine. But there's no extra shots. There's no slamming their head into the ice other than Tom Wilson. There's none of that for the most part. And I think you're right. I mean, can it be taught loosely? And, you use that term loosely? Sure. But yeah, I mean, Joey's got a great point. Like that's the thing. You want to get shit going, or hell, if you're a rookie that's not necessarily a top 5 draft pick and you're trying to make a name for yourself and you're trying
to at Arbor Chakai with Montreal this year.
Yeah.
2 games in and just beats the brakes off of somebody and endears himself to the fan base and the rest of the league for knowing how to scrap, answering the bell, and winning the fight.
Yeah, and to jump into the other side of it too, or not the other side of it, another example is leadership, leading by example. My biggest example is in their heyday, obviously, who I'm about to mention is extremely old now, but Joe Thornton and Jonathan Toews. Those two had one hell of a rivalry, and yet Jonathan Toews had absolutely no business ever dropping the gloves with Joe Thornton. But he always did if it was warranted, if he needed to boost his team on the bench, if whatever he needed to do, if he needed to show any of the new guys that had just come in and he had been the captain for so long, he still is the captain and he's been there for so long. If he had to show something in a game, like lead by example, that's what he did. Even though you knew, like, what the hell, dude? That's Joe friggin' Thornton. Like, Toews is a tough guy, but
not only that,
he ain't gonna scrap hard.
Toews, we're counting on you to score or set up a goal here. We're counting on you to make a play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's still doing it. We talked about the Tenorti fight, or the fight after Athanasiou got, kind of jolted in the head. Toews was the first one to step in and drop the gloves. He's still doing it at age 34, 5.
30. Something like that. You know better than I do on
30,
the age there.
34.
Anyway, let's move on. Wednesday night picks. You had a great hit last week with your call of the hat trick for Tage Thompson against Columbus, but the rest of the week, not quite as well. 3-4 last week. I was 4-3. We had some close calls in that one too. We had Vancouver and San Jose went to overtime. That one was a money line game. So Vancouver with the win gets you the overtime winner there. We missed bad on Vegas against the Rangers. Rangers won that game 5-1. So that was a bit of a stunner there. But overall on the season, Joel, congrats. You're the first to 60 wins. This season, I've got the better record this year, but it's close. And we're both on the right side of 500. So we'll see how things shake out with this upcoming week's games. Starting with tomorrow night, Montreal Canadiens plus 160 at the Ottawa Senators minus 190.
These odds on this one are very interesting.
They are. I certainly thought that they would be a little bit closer than this. Ottawa 12-14-2. They're coming on a little hot lately. 6-3-1 in their last 10. Montreal 5-4-1 in their last 10. I really can't figure out why that line is at minus 190
for Ottawa. Ottawa's
for
second
the money
to
line.
last, and Ottawa's second to last in the Atlantic. Montreal's ahead of them by 4 points, but still.
Right. And yes, the Sens are playing better as of late. Not great hockey, not the type of hockey that we expected from them this season, but
6-3-1 in their last 10. Not bad.
Yeah, looking at Montreal, Sean Monahan is still out for a couple more weeks. David Savard out. Jonathan Drouin should be coming back soon, so there is that. Brendan Gallagher out. So maybe a little bit of the injuries on the Montreal side, but certainly not as much as I would have thought to get that kind of line. And especially not when Ottawa is down Stützle with an upper body injury. Not when Tyler Mott day-to-day, Matthew Joseph out. The line just doesn't quite make sense to me here to be at minus 190. That almost seems like it's too high. But I still don't know if I can pick against Ottawa in this one.
I mean, I'd understand that. For me, I need a second, but from a straight betting standpoint, if you want good value, that's pretty damn good value if you're going to get plus 160 on the Canadians. That's it's pretty weird value. I would definitely I might toss a couple shekels on the Canadians just because of that value that they definitely have a chance to win. What?
a loony and a toonie?
I've heard that joke before.
We haven't got to make it with Montreal on a Wednesday night pick.
Okay, that's fair.
Segment before, so I took advantage of my chance to do it.
This is kind of a last season trend, but you know what? YOLO, I'm at 500. I'm going to take the Canadians.
Okay.
I know they're away.
I was going to do. Go ahead. So
I was saying, I know they're away. They've been playing pretty well. I mean, they've not like amazingly well, but they're playing some of the best teams very hard, regardless if they win or lose. They beat Seattle 4-2 last Tuesday. Then after that, they ended up. I know they lost their next game against who was it? It was on Saturday. Yeah, they lost to the Kings, but 4-2, not bad. The Kings are a great team, and they beat Seattle. So now we get ourselves to last night. They beat the Flames in a shootout, of course. Who Nick Suzuki is apparently a shootout machine this year. I'm gonna take the Canadians.
Yeah, I'm gonna go just to be different. I'm gonna take Ottawa. I was going to do the opposite of whatever you were going to do on this one anyway. But I do think if the value is not there on the money line or on the puck line, either. Montreal plus 1.5 goals is minus 150. Ottawa to win by 2 or more is plus 130. So I really don't see the betting value. I think the best betting value here is probably Canadiens plus 160, but I'm still going to go with Ottawa. Trying to take the win where I can get it.
That's fair.
Second game of the night, Detroit Red Wings plus 1.5 goals at minus 135 at the Minnesota Wild minus 1.5 goals plus 115. Joel, Red Wings, Wild, who you got?
Wild finally playing up to what their standards that they should have been doing all season.
Well, they're finally getting healthy. That's the big thing. 7-3-0 in their last 10. They are very close to getting Hartman back. They had Brodin out for a while. Fleury was out for a little while. And granted, Gustafsson played pretty well while Fleury was out. But the Wild have kind of been banged up. They're finally starting to get healthy and making that push.
I got to think. I'm going to let you go first on this one.
I think you already
pick? You
already know where I'm going. It's the Wild. I got to pick the Wild here, especially knowing that they're turning things around in a hurry and starting to play a lot more like the type of club that we thought we were going to get this season. Meanwhile, Detroit 5-3-2 in their last 10 on a 2-game losing skid, minus 2 goal differential on the season for Detroit, and a plus 3 goal differential on the season for Minnesota. So it's very close. That said, I still feel like the Wings are kind of underperforming. When you look at the roster they have, you look at the moves that they went out and made this offseason, really not playing up to the level that we've thought that they might. I do think this will be a close game, and I feel like the Red Wings always play the Wild tough. I just remember some fiery games in recent years as well. I'm trying to remember who it was. I want to say it was Dylan Larkin who speared Jared Spurgeon in the face because he was mad about a check a couple seasons ago.
Sounds familiar.
So there's some bad blood there, and probably will be a rather chippy game, especially with the former Blues players who are now in Detroit. You'll see some of that. So I'm still going to go Minnesota in this one, especially that plus 115, get a little extra on it. Should be a good game, though. I have no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think I am going to go different here. I was kind of teetering the fence. I am going to take the Red Wings to cover plus 1.5. I totally agree with you, though. At plus 115, that's great for at least just the straight up betting. But if we're trying to preserve records and bet, yeah, I'm going to take the Red Wings at plus 1.5. I think they, like you said, I've watched some of those games when they are in prime time. They play you guys hard. They're chippy regardless of how they're currently doing. So I don't know if they're necessarily going to win, but I definitely could see them covering. So I'll take it.
And then our final game of the night, the Vancouver Canucks plus 140 at the Calgary Flames minus 160.
Are there only 3 games tomorrow? Or did we only
three games tomorrow? So we got all of them.
We go from 7 to 3. Thanks, NHL.
And we go from 12 or 14 games tonight. With like 9 of them starting at 7 o'clock Eastern to 3 tomorrow. It's so dumb. And we've ragged on it on this show countless times.
We got a glimpse.
The dumbest thing.
We got a glimpse of how it could be, and then the NHL took it from us.
We did. They took it away from us last Wednesday, where we had the half-hour start difference on all of those things. All those 7 games with 7 different start times, and then we get 14 tonight with 9 starting.
Yeah,
frustrating.
I know. It is what it is.
Anyway, Vancouver plus 140, Calgary minus 160. Joel, who you got here?
I mean, even though it's, the lower half of the Pacific Division right now, those two are fighting against each other for positioning, right? Well, Vancouver's still, 4 points behind Calgary, but I mean, it's tough. I mean, Vancouver 6-4-0 in their last 10. Calgary 4-4-2. That's all over the damn place. Calgary looking like frauds all season so far. And wait, who's at home? Flames are at home?
Flames are at home.
You know what? This number glared right at me when I saw it. I'm going to take the Flames because of their home record. They're 10-5-1 at home. So yeah, I like that.
I agree with you here. I'm going Calgary as well. The big concerns for me in this one are Thatcher Demko being out for Vancouver. That's a big loss. And even, as bad as the team has looked at times this year, Demko has still played reasonably well, all things considered. But lower body injury, he's out until mid-January, it looks like. Also, Elias Pettersson left Sunday's practice with an illness. Unclear what his status is for tomorrow night. So especially if Pettersson is not in the game, that's why I think you take Calgary now at minus 160, because if he's ruled out tomorrow, I could see that line shooting up even more to about minus 180, minus 190. So if you're going for value there, I think that's about where it is. Should stay about where these odds currently are if Pettersson plays, I would think. But I'm still going Calgary here. The home record, the injury uncertainties, and especially having presumably their starting goaltender between the pipes. I think something to be said for that. So
I agree. Question about Vancouver for you.
Go ahead.
By this date, the 13th of March, is Brock Besser still a Canuck?
Oh, boy. Because we're going to get to the trade deadline here. And Vancouver, like we got to get to 2 minutes for roughing here, but we're going to take a minute.
I saw we had some extra time. That's why I asked.
We got a little bit of time here, and we're going to dig into the Canucks and just with where they're at organizationally.
The
Messer
Canucks
does still have 2 more years after this season at a $6.65 million cap hit. Bo Horvat in the final year of his deal,
he might get
pending UFA, and he's their captain. He could be potentially out the door as well. Looking at the recent playoff history, hint, there really isn't any. The struggles to kind of get over the hump, looking at the rest of the roster too, and just kind of the way things are constructed here. Keep in mind next season, JT Miller's contract goes up. So he will be making $8 million through the 29-30 season starting next year.
Wow.
And
oh God, you saying those years just chills.
What did you think about the Seth Jones contract and how he's getting paid through those years?
All right.
I had to get it in.
Where did what that's just
you were late to the show. I had to get a cheap shot.
A bitch slap to the face would be an understatement. No, it was
Where's Joey to back me up here on Seth Jones?
You mean the Norris Trophy winner in the year 2025?
Yeah, okay. We'll see.
Notice how I didn't even say next year.
You think while Cale Makar exists that Jones has a chance?
Maybe Makar has an injury, and all Avs fans collectively gasp and start cursing my name for that jinx.
Yep. But looking at the younger guys that they've got coming up, they've got kind of a weird divide almost, it seems like, with their franchise. And are they kind of stuck? You know, they're locked in with Oliver Ekman-Larsson's deal where Arizona retains some salary, but still paying $7.26 million against the cap for Ekman-Larsson for the next 5 years. You're still locked into Tyler Myers on a no-move clause through next season. By the way, any idea who, with Demko out, the new backup goaltender is for Vancouver?
Should I know it?
There's a Chicago connection here.
Okay, that I was going to ask. Oh my God! Wait, is it Kevin Lankinen?
It is not Lankinen.
No.
But you're close.
Oh God! Why can't I think of his name? That's gonna bug me. He was on a last year, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was in the system last year.
Oh, Colin Delia.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
You know what? I wish the best for him. He's a nice kid. He just couldn't. The injuries just kept catching up to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he needed to go somewhere else too. Also, as I recall, Jeremy Colleton is the head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, I think, which is where Delia would be playing.
So how many regular season games does that's their AHL team, right?
Yes. Abbotsford is the AHL.
What's the regular season game count on AHL games? Is it also 82 or is it it's like 70 something?
Yeah, it's 76, I want to say. Because they end the season roughly at the same time so that the playoffs are running concurrent of each other. Also allowing for players who are the AHL club is eliminated from playoff contention to get called up to their NHL team, NHL teams to send their players down to the AHL roster for a playoff run.
So you're telling me the Abbotsford Canucks are going to go 570-1. God.
They're already better than that, so there is that.
But I don't know. That's not Colleton's doing then.
That's enough ripping on Vancouver for tonight. 2 minutes for roughing. I got it for this week. Joel did it last week, so
yes.
Joel, would you be so kind as to put 2 minutes on the clock for me?
I can do that. Give me 1 hot second. I'm putting a couple shekels on Ovi hitting 800 goals tonight.
Wow. Live betting on it too.
Well, game doesn't start for...
yeah, I guess not. Okay, this is another dumb thing about the NHL is you have the teams in the Central Division. It's a Central Division host team, and they've, for whatever reason, got that game starting at 8 o'clock Central instead of 7 o'clock Central. Like, why?
I mean, yeah,
I don't. Eastern, yeah. Like, it makes sense that it would start at 8 o'clock Eastern, especially because 7 o'clock is your standard start time by time zone. They're playing an Eastern Conference team. So, again, logically, 8 o'clock would be a reasonable start time. But no, you bumped it all the way back to 9 o'clock.
I know.
It's so dumb.
I get it. All right. Are you ready, my friend?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Is it able to be seen? There we go. And go.
So I've ripped on Gary Bettman for a lot of things over the course of this show. Many things. I've ripped on him over concussions. I've ripped on him over the schedule. I've ripped on him over the lockouts. There are countless things that I could rip on Gary Bettman for. But there is one thing to which I have to give Gary Bettman at least a little bit of credit, just a little sliver. And I can already see, based on your reaction, how concerned you are here. Gary Bettman was recently asked about adding a play-in or a wild card round to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And his response was, "You're looking to fix a problem that doesn't exist." I am 100% with Gary Bettman. The NHL playoffs do not need expansion. Because as you look at the way that the playoffs are structured right now, you have 16 teams in a 32-team league making the playoffs. That is the second highest percentage in North American sports, outside of the NBA, where you've got 16 playoff teams among a field of 30. So just over half of the teams in the NBA make the playoffs. But I really by one spot, if you want to think about that, or the two extra teams. The NHL playoffs don't need that kind of expansion. You've already got half the league qualifying for the playoffs. Beyond that, the bigger issue, if you're looking for something to resolve with the playoffs, you need to go back to the normal format of seeding the teams 1 through 8. 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. Get rid of the interdivision stuff. You're already starting Central Division games at 9 o'clock Central anyway, when it's 2 Central Division teams playing each other. It's not like the time zones are the problem. Give it to cross-division matchups, but do not expand the playoff field.
Yeah, I totally agree. And here's what I will add to that very, very quickly. I mentioned it earlier in the show. That's why this is kind of topical.
Mm-hmm.
I understand as a whole, hockey will pretty much usually sit in that 4 slot of the 4 major sports. I get it. However, this is pretty universally known and agreed upon. Maybe this is for another show. We could argue this if we talk like hockey and everything else for funsies. From a playoff standpoint alone, the NHL is absolutely the top spot, if not number 2, when it comes to the favorite thing to watch when it comes to playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people would agree with that. And and to your point of this entire 2 minutes for roughing, don't fix what ain't broken.
Yep, exactly. Exactly like Bettman said, you're looking to fix a problem that doesn't exist. Keep the field as it is, and we'll move on from there. But we need to move on, and that's the end of tonight's show. So thank you to everybody who watched, tuned in, commented throughout the show. If you're catching this on demand, a reminder that we are live Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock-ish Eastern, 6 o'clock-ish Central, as has been the case in recent weeks.
Let's move to like 6:15.
6:08. We'll do what the NHL does and have a start time of 7:08.
How about 6:09? Nice.
I mean, that would be a nice time to start. So maybe that's what we'll have to do. So,
all right, send us off.
Yeah, that's it for tonight's show. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Snipe Celly, on Facebook as well under the same name. Thank you to Noob Sports and to the Sports 2.0 Network for giving us this show, the opportunity to bring it to you every week. We are back next Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. He's Joel. I'm Dan. Enjoy your night, everybody.